everybody, my name is Bao and today I'm gonna tell you about Anne Frank. Chapter 1, Living Free. Anne ran down the stairs and onto the street as fast as she could. Her skinny waist go at full pelt. She was meant to be doing her homework, but it was so boring. Margot, her perfect sister, might be happy sticking her nose in the book all day, but Anne wasn't. She stopped when she reached the flat around the corner. Then she sang bravely through the weather box. 5 notes up and 5 notes down. It was her secret signal. The next morning, White Goslar, her best friend, opened the door. Anne caught hold of her hand and pulled her outside. "Come on," she said. "Let's go and play." Their friend, Sandy, and a crowd of other children were already out on the sunny Amsterdam streets. Some were rolling hoops, others playing hopscotch or doing handstands against the wall. Annie was hopeless at handstands, but knew another way to get everyone's attention. "Watch this," she cried, lifting her arm up high in the air. Annie waited until everyone was looking at her. Then she swung her arm around as fast as she could. There was a loud crack, and her shoulder popped straight out of its socket. All the boys laughed and cheered. Hearing the sound of laughter, Annie's mother, Edith, glanced out the window and caught the sight of Annie on the streets below. "I bet that girl hasn't done her homework," she thought with a sigh. It was always such a struggle for Annie. Even though her daughter was only 7, Edith was certain she would be a social butterfly all her life. Still, she was glad Annie had settled into Amsterdam so easily. It was 3 years since the Franks had left Germany, but Edith still missed her home. As long as the Nazi Party ruled Germany, they couldn't go back. The Franks were Jewish, and the Nazis hate Jews. Recently, the Nazis have fired Jews from their jobs, shut down Jewish shops, and beat up Jews on the streets. "We were right to leave when we did," thought Edith. "We couldn't have brought up our children in such a country." That night, Annie's father Otto put Annie to bed as usual. "Tell me a story, Annie, please." "Can I have one about good Polly, Paula, and naughty Paula?" "But this time, tell me about naughty Paula. It's more fun." "Margaret prefers good Paula," Otto remarked. "Well, she would," Annie replied hopefully. It was hard having Margaret as an older sister. She never got into trouble and was always neat and tidy. Otto guessed what she was thinking. "You can be good too, Annie. You just have to learn to control yourself." "I'll try, Daddy, I promise." Annie said, "Anything to make you happy." Otto laughed. "You little flatterer," he said, kissing her on the head. Next day at school, Annie tried harder than usual to concentrate. She loved school, really. The big airy classroom, the bright red flower pots on the windowsill. It was just so much more fun to talk to people than to listen to the lessons. Wow, what is that? Annie Anne Frank, you're such a chatterbox, scolded her teacher. I can't help it, Mr. Cassie, maybe. Annie replied, it's a female thing. My mother talks as much as I do, and I inherit my talkativeness. Wow. From her, everyone laughed, including the teacher. When Annie got back, Edith was bustling around the kitchen, preparing supper. We have guests tonight, she said. Who's coming? Anne asked eagerly. Mia from Daddy's work. And her friend, Jan. Hooray! Annie cried. She loved when people came over. As soon as the doorbell rang, Anne rushed to wipe them in. The next moment she was preparing that with questions. How are you, Yep? How was your day? What is white work? King with Daddy. Oh, Jan. Then Annie stopped and looked them both. Then Anne stopped and looked at them both, her brown eyes sparkling with interest. Oh, are you Miep's boyfriend? She asked. Quiet, Anne, interrupted Edith. Time for supper, added Otto gently. As soon as the meal was over, Anne and Margot were sent to bed. I expect they want to talk about politics. Said Margaret, or some sort of secret. Annie suggested politics are boring. But things are getting worse. Margaret explained, it's all because of Hitler, the Nazi party leader. Oh, that man with that mustache, maybe. He's making the Nazis more powerful than ever. They're building up a huge army. Yeah. That Mark was good. Mommy's worried Hitler will invade the Netherlands one day, Margaret went on. What does Daddy think? Anne asked. He thinks we're safe here. Good, said Anne. Then I won't worry about it either. Besides, she added, I haven't got time for Hitler. I've got the summer holiday to think about. Months of swimming and sunbathing, I can't wait. Broken glass. At the start of a new school term, Annie and we walked to school together as usual. Annie curled and twisted her hair around her finger as she talked, casting smiles at the boys behind them. Anne Frank, exclaimed Wise in a wild visitor, you're such a flirt. No, I'm not, Annie giggled. Then stop looking at that boy. But he's looking at me, Annie retorted. Besides, I can't help it if he likes me. You're just what people paying you attention, said Louise, laughing. Anne felt she was having the best year ever. For her, 1937 was a golden time. She had a throng of friends, girls and boys, and there were family trips to the lakes and to Switzerland to see their cousins. But as time passes, fear began to work at the back of Annie's mind, much as she tried to crush it. Age 9, she overheard scraps of terrifying news from the grown-ups' conversation that whispered about France and Nazi Germany, who had been rounded up and taken to work in places called concentration camps. No one had heard from them since. Words like Kristallnacht, maybe, or Night of the Broken Glass rang in her head, and it knew that on the night of the broken glass, Jews in Germany had been beaten up and the windows of Jew owner shops and homes had been smashed in. The dark streets had glittered like a nightmare with shards of broken glass. Safe in Amsterdam, The Franks tried to lead to a normal life, but the following year, 1939, Edith was more worried than ever. First, Hitler invaded Poland. Now Britain declares war on Germany. It might be us next. What happened then? Send the girls to us, wrote Otto's cousin Millie from England. I know we're at war, but you think it's the least bit safe. Please send the children here. But although Edith and Otto discussed it, they decided to stay together as a family. We couldn't bear to part with the girls, Otto wrote back. They mean too much more to us. The following May, Annie and Margaret had their photographs taken as usual. Anne spent a happy afternoon sticking the photos into her album. She studied them carefully. Now she was 11. Annie took her appearance very seriously. She longed to reminisce beside one. She scribbled a note. But late that night, she couldn't sleep. The air was filled with strange groaning noise. She looked at her clock. It was 4 in the morning. The next day, there was a massive explosion, followed by another and another. Annie raced into her parents' room. What's happening? She cried. Her parents were standing with Margaret. They staring out of their bedroom window. Annie went to look too. A swarm of planes were streaming across the sky. In the distance, fire burned and the smell of smoke seeped in through the open window. Otto put his arm around Annie and held her close. They're German planes, Anne, he said. Hitler's invasion. Until daybreak, a German and Dutch plane fought over Amsterdam skies. That morning, the streets were filled with panic. As people tried to find out what's happening, others stayed glued to their radios. The next day were punched with the piercing wail of air sirens, warning everyone to take cover. The sirens were always followed by the sound of exploding bombs, and it awake most. Lay awake most nights, shaking with fear. Then came an announcement on the radio. Germans threatened to bomb the city of Rotterdam unless we surrender. 2 hours before the deadline expired, the Germans bombed Rotterdam. Anyway, 900 people were killed. Following further bombings, the Netherlands surrendered. Just 4 days after Hitler had invaded. At first, life carried on as normal, but little by little, things did begin to change. It was announced that the Jews had registered themselves so the Nazis could find out exactly where they lived. Soon after, the Nazis began to pass anti-Jewish laws. Anne was furious. We can't do anything, she grumbled to Wise and Sandy. We have to walk everywhere. We're not allowed to park or swimming pools. I hate it, agreed Wise. They had to spend the morning flicking through fashion magazines and gossiping. Now they wanted to go out, but echoing down the street, they heard a stamp, a marching footstep. A group of Dutch Nazis were walking by, wearing their uniforms with pride. The The girls hid from view until the footsteps faded into silence. They heard stories of what Nazi soldiers did to Jews. Do you want to come up and see my outfit for Nieb's and Jane's wedding? Anne suggested to break the silence. They raced inside. Anne proudly showed them her new coat and hat, and she added excitedly, I'm going to have a new hairstyle for this occasion. Annie felt that whenever she was with her friends, she had to stay cheerful. Margaret, on the other hand, grew quieter than ever. At the end of the summer, all Jewish children from Anne's school were kept behind after assembly. The headmistress faced them from the front of the room. I'm afraid you'll not be allowed to return to the school next term, she began, her hands clasping and unclasping as she spoke. The Nazi house passed a new law. Jewish students can no longer go to school with non-Jews. Annie let out a cry and sobbed into her hands. She loved her school. Why did she have to leave? She'll never see any of her non-Jewish friends now. When Anne got home, Otto and Eden did their best to comfort her. We will send you and Margot to a Jewish lyceum. Eden told her, it's so far away. Eden cried, I know, said Eden, please, don't worry. We must try to keep our lives as normal as possible. But even loving parents were powerless to stop what was happening. The following spring, the Nazis passed yet another law. All Jews had to sew a yellow star onto their clothes with the word Jude on it, the Dutch for Jew. I'm scared to do anything now in case it's forbidden, said Anne's friend Jackie. Anne knew how she felt. That year, the Franks celebrated the Jewish festival of Passover with the Van Pel's family. Otto and Mr. Van Pels worked together, and suddenly it seems that if the Van Pels were always at the Frank's house, the parents talking together in hushed voice. Annie didn't take much notice. She was determined to have some fun still. She formed a ping pong club with Jackie, while Janet and her friend Elise played on the dining room table at Ellie's house. Anne also had her birthday to look forward to. She was going to be 13. I already know what I'm getting, and told Wise I'll chose it myself. It was an autograph book, but I'm gonna use it as a diary and write all my secrets in it. On the morning of Anne's birthday, Lise came by to walk to school with Anne, peering into the Frank's sitting room to see Annie's present. Wise noticed, not for the first time, how bare the room looked. The Franks must be selling off their furniture. Wise thought perhaps they need the money. That night, Anne wrote in her diary for the first time, I hope I shall be confided in you completely, and as I never had been able to do in anyone before, and I hope you will be a great source for comfort and support. Otto was glad his daughter had a diary. he thought she would need it in the months to come. We may have to go into hiding, he said as they strolled down the streets together. Even though it would be hard for us to wait, we've cut off from the rest of the world. What do you mean? Anne asked. You know how we're sending our clothes and furniture to other people? I began. I thought it was just to stop the Nazis taking them. Well, yes, Otto replied, but we don't want the Nazis to take us too. So we'll leave on our own, not wait for them to get us. Anne was scared. But when, Daddy? Don't worry, we'll take care of everything. Just enjoy your carefree life while you can. Anne did reply. She was desperately hoping that day was still a long way off. A week later, Anne was lying on a flat roof, lazily reading in the sun when Margaret rushed up to her. Father received a call up from the Nazis, she said breathlessly. Mother's gone to see Mr. Van Pels. Anne could feel her body being started to shake. Everyone knew what a call-up was. It meant being sent to a concentration camp, and no one ever came back from those. He's not going, Margaret declared. Mother's gone to ask Mr. Van Pels, and we can go to our hiding place tomorrow. The Van Pels are going with us, she added. Anne and Margaret sat in tense silence, waiting for their mother to return. Anne kept thinking of her father visiting friends at the Jewish hospital with no idea what was happening. I lied, Margaret burst out suddenly. The call wasn't for father, it was me. Anne was so shocked she started to cry. It's because I'm 16 now. The Nazis are sending girls my age away. Daddy won't let you go, said Anne. No, Margaret sank into her chair, then sprang up again. We'll better start packing. Anne found herself shoving the craziest thing in her bag. A diary, hair curls, school books, some old letters. She couldn't concentrate. She was bursting with questions. Where we go, she began. Where we hide. Margaret began to explain what was going to happen. Mr. Kelman and Mr. Kirkle from Daddy's work are going to help us. So are Miep and Jan. And that's Daddy's secretary, Beb. Otto finally came back late that afternoon. Miep arrived too and with her bag full of clothes, promising to return later. The family sat together in silence. It's so hot, and everything felt very strange. Goodbye.